welcome to Morocco. Now, we wanted to get some beers, but the problem here is it's a 3-hour round trip because I don't really approve of people drinking here. So I thought, what better a way to test drive the Dacia Logan and tell you, well, about it. I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad. Let's go. In this car. So I am in a Dacia Logan, and yes, it is as good as it sounds. Oh, by the way, talking of sounds, it's got this thing down here which is called a manual gearbox. What that appears to do is just make the engine make different noises. Yeah, it's not particularly responsive, I think we would say. So we've got a good comparison though, because my friend here has also got a Peugeot 301, which we've never heard of, which appears to only be made in
only exist in Morocco.
Only exist in Morocco. Much like my warning light when I spoke to the hire car, and he said, "Oh yeah, don't worry about that. All Dacias do that." I'm not sure that was in the Dacia handbook. So the reason we're in this car, well, one, I'm on holiday in Morocco doing some exploring, but secondly, we've been on a beer run. So I have to slow down here because the police are everywhere. What we have found out on the police though is that they seem to only pull over so far the really nice cars, which this is definitely not in that category. We've decided we're quite safe on that front.
We feel very safe.
So we've just travelled 160 kilometres, or in the process of returning on that journey, to buy some beer. Because if you don't know, this is a Muslim country and they don't really sell beer, except in the more touristy towns where it's kind of acceptable. You have to drink it in the place that you stay, which is fine, and we respect those rules, but we were kind of running out of the few beers we bought as a tiding over, and realised the town we're staying in is not very touristy at all, which is lovely, but they don't sell beer. So we thought we'd take the Logan out for a bit of a spin. Now, I must admit, my first drive, I really didn't like it. My opinion hasn't shifted a huge amount. I think this is the sort of car you buy if you've totally given up on driving, because frankly it is pretty terrible. The steering wheel is about as accurate as, well, my ability to hit a bullseye on a dartboard, and not particularly, well, it doesn't give a lot of feedback, so it's not particularly fun to drive. There's a shitload of plastic in here, except for, which I will show you in some time, a beautiful fake carbon fibre surround around the stereo system, which is as powerful as you would expect. The rest of it is pretty basic. I don't even know what engine this has got in it. I think it might be out of a liquidizer. It's not that powerful. It's not very torquey at all. It does do 120 kilometres an hour, maybe more. I might have tried on the motorway.
130
unofficially, apparently, not on a private road. But yeah, so it's all right. You know, it kind of does the job. It's not the car I would choose, admittedly, and yeah, the seats are pretty uncomfortable. The steering wheel and stuff is incredibly plastic, but you know what? You don't really care about it when we've been driving around these small towns trying to get into the Medina, and there's bikes and people and cars and frankly lorries on your side of the road.
40k speed limits, yeah. 1.5 lane bridge.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's like my own sat nav. We have to be really careful here on the speed limits.
1.5 lane bridge.
Because yeah, the police tend to want to hang out in these spots, so it's not great. But it's been quite a fun trip. So we have found the beer. We are on the way back, and I don't know what else to tell you about this car. Like, don't buy one. Never go here. I've never driven a Dacia before.
You don't actually know how much it is.
Whatever it is, it's probably too much.
It's too expensive.
It's too expensive. I might look that up actually and come back to you on that one. But yeah, no, like nothing's electric here. Like manual wing mirrors, which is great because when you come out of a car park here, some guy decides to lean on them as he's trying to show you the way out because he thinks he knows better for 5 dirhams. So that readjusts them, especially if it's on the wrong side and you've got no passenger. The boot is, well, this one doesn't actually shut properly because I think it may have met a wall at some point. But actually, very spacious boot. You get a lot in there. There is a plus side. I found it. Very, very spacious boot.
There's a compartment for beer smuggling.
There's a compartment for beer smuggling. You don't stand out here. There's not a lot of smart cars here in Morocco. So, although on this trip we have just seen a Porsche Cayenne, 2 Range Rover Sport, in fact Range Rovers, and a Range Rover Sport, and a couple of X5s, which is
that's fine. We're absolutely 100% legit here.
You're getting the hang of this.
Look at this. Beautiful. The super powerful air conditioning is actually freezing my hand.
Which is good because it was 44 degrees when we jumped in this car.
Yeah, no, it is now
31.
Only 31. Another overtaking.
Now you'll notice I'm using indicators, so that is probably making me stand out quite a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people use that.
People are actually laughing at you on the side of the road.
And the hardest thing coming in here was actually I drove in when we first arrived at this town called, I can never pronounce it, Taroudan, which is sort of like 50 kilometres, 60 kilometres out from Agadir. So I was driving it at dusk, just like the people's clothing here is quite dark, and there's people walking along the streets as you're driving, so it makes it quite difficult. Oh, and not to mention, most of their transport, they don't turn the lights on, which makes it quite hard to see them as well. So it was more of a sort of a test to make sure I didn't run anyone over on the way in rather than anything else. But once you get the hang of it, it's quite good fun. I've ridden motorbikes through Africa. You know, this is obviously also Africa, but it's no different really. I think it's quite, we were talking about challenging places we've driven on the way here, and this is probably one of them, but you just kind of have to go with the flow, right? It's
yeah, it's in my top 3
of the worst places to drive.
Most challenging places to drive with Thailand and South Africa, whereas it's probably the top one in number 1 in top 3.
But I didn't find South Africa that hard to drive in. And actually, like, roads like this are amazing. These are like really good new roads. But when you get into the towns, it's like nobody moves. They just walk in front of you, or cycle in front of you, and that's okay. Like, it's down to you not to run them over. So there's a lot of taxis here. They have these things called petit taxis, which are basically Peugeot 205s with roof racks on, from all I can tell. The other ones are grand taxis, which are like 2,000-year-old Mercedes, which do massive long trips across countries, across this continent. But we just thought, can you get an Uber? You can get an Uber.
You cannot get an Uber.
Oh, from somewhere else. So I didn't really get a chance to conclude the Logan video, so this is another day where I'm wearing a different t-shirt in a different place, and it's really ruddy hot. But it wasn't supposed to be a review. It was just a bit of a never driven a Dacia or one of these, which if I don't drive one again will be too soon. But I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of what it's like driving in a country like this and having to do ridiculous trips for some beer, which was a bit silly. This was a hire car basically, and I can't wait to give it back. Oh, it does have a warning light on the dash. When I asked the guy, he said, oh no, it's okay, they all do that. Anyway, thank you for watching this little fun video. What do you think of this? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Remember, lots more content to come. Cheers.